Right, so let's take a step back. So again, we're producing the pumpkin shape to demonstrate and demystify. So our first command, make sure your units are set up properly. To inches. So we're doing a line. We're going vertical, 0, comma 0, 12 inches. We're going vertically. There's 12 inches. I can then say C plane, enter, R enter, X enter. Can click, click. I just flipped it up. I'm going a lot faster because you guys seen this already. Start end direction, arc, and then I make an arc. And then I go to C plane, and then I can say, if you look at the options, we can say world, top. Oops. Lost that. World, top. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this in Grasshopper. So in Grasshopper, we can do it many different ways. I try to find similar tools. So when you're in Grasshopper, just, if Josh were here, he would say, John, how do I make a line in Grasshopper? I don't know, just type in line. Right? Double click, line. How many lines can I make? There's a lot of lines I can do. What is SDL? Is that Saturday Night Live? It's like, this must mean something. What do I think SDL, What was the saying? At UIC, one of the students was talking about his research, and he said through research and, what was it? And assumption. I think that was the words he used. Through research and assumption, I think it's this. So you got to use your brains, all right? So you guys assume things all the time, don't you? You make assumptions? All right. So what does SDL stand for? Make some assumptions, right? SDL, start, direction, length. Where's my start? 0, 0, 0. How can I do that? Can I make a point?
Yeah.
Look at that. Construct point. If I just type in point, I might not get, you don't get everything, unfortunately. But if I were to type in construct point, there it is. This is asking for X, Y, Z. By default, these are all 0. If I plug that into S, that's my start point. Where's my direction? Z. So here it's just looking for a vector direction. It doesn't care what the magnitude of that vector is. So by default, if we just hover over these, you guys have to use this, just hover over these. It'll say one locally defined value, 0, 0, 1. Okay? This makes sense? 0, 0, 1. So what does that mean, 0, 0, 1? What does that mean? I got 0 in my checking, 0 in my savings, and $1 in my investments. No, it's not your bank account. What is 0, 0, what is 0, 0, 1? X, Y, Z. So where are we putting in Z? 1 unit. So it's moving in the Z direction. Okay? It's a vector direction. If I put 1 for X, it'll move 1 and 1, right? So it'll be an angular move. Does this make sense? Right? And then the last is my length. So this is where we can grab a number slider. Right? And I can right click and say edit, change the max. Let's change it to 24. Let's make our pumpkin bigger eventually. But I'll put 12 in there. And then I plug that in. Okay? If I hide this and I select this, there's now our line. Okay? That's in the same position of where we drew it. So far, so good? All right. What's next? What did I make next? The arc. Now, do you think... So, again, it's not one-to-one. What I mean, it's not one-to-one. Exactly what we did in Rhino might not need to be done in Grasshopper. Okay? Because these little components, they sometimes pack more than just sort of one thing, or they can do multiple things. The reason I'm saying is we might not need the C-plane at this moment. Alright? So we did start and direction, right? So I would look for that. If we go to curves, we can go here and we can go to primitives. And we can start hunting. Do I see any? I see arc SED. What is SED? It's a seed. Does it grow? Oh, start and direction. Oh my God. See how your brain should be working? So don't focus on, like, when you guys are looking at geometry, focus on geometry, right? Start and direction, right? Boom. Start and direction. If I right click, help, start point, end point, direction, tangent. That's start. Okay? So it's looking for a start and an end. Do I have a start and an end? Where? So I have a start. Where's my end, though? Yeah. No, it would be Z12, actually. So how can I, do you think, what would I want the endpoints, right? So what if I just start typing endpoints? Oh, endpoints. This gives me the endpoints of my curves. Gives me the start and the end. I'm not saying, you got to just think this way. You just got to start clicking and typing. I know there's endpoints, but you guys don't know. All right? Where's Josh, by the way? So I plug these in. All right? Now it's looking for direction. What is it looking for? What does it say there? Empty what? Empty vector. It's looking for a vector. Okay? So we need to make a vector now. Can we make a vector? What should I type in? Vector. Oh, look. Vector X, Y, Z. This looks promising. Okay? X, Y, Z. I know my line's moving in this direction. What direction is that? X. And I know it's moving in this. I know this arc is moving. Is it moving in the Y? No. Do I need anything in the Y? No, but it's moving in, what's the other direction? X and Z. So I need something in X and Z. Alright, so I'm going to grab a number slider. I'm going to put something in X. And I'm going to put one in Z. And then I'm just going to take the vector and throw it into D. And I'm like, oh, there's something happening. Okay. Now I'm going to start manipulating these. Okay. Maybe that's not enough. Or maybe I need to go something else. What can I do with the Z? Very good. You guys are catching on. So I edit. So my minimum is going to be a negative 24. Oh, look at that. Because we're pointing down, right? The arc is going negative in the Z. Now I want to see that vector because I like seeing vectors. So I'm going to go to display vector and I'm going to say vector display. And it's looking for anchor point, which is in this case 0, 0. All right. And then it's looking for the vector. So there's my vector. So it's good to have that visually. Just how we did it before. When we drew a line, 0, 0. line, vertical, 0, 0, 12 inches, click, and then we drew an arc, remember? Arc, start, end, direction, start, end. Okay, it's not working for me now because I forgot the C-plane, right? So in this case, I actually need a C-plane rotation. And then we do a curve, arc. All right, I put it right in the same position. This is my direction, right? So if I put it right where the grasshopper is, it creates a similar arc. Is this making sense? Okay. Okay, if we look at what we drew here, we need two arcs that are this, one being the same and one being maybe bigger. So let's do the one that's in the same. So let's go back now. Let's go ahead and close this temporarily. Okay. So what would I do? I would need to be, I have my C-plane world, C-plane world top. Okay. I need to rotate this now, right? I want to rotate it. Copy rotate. So I would just do a rotate command. Select that edge. Pick 0, 0, enter. Start point here, and then I would rotate it. So let's go ahead and do 45. Alright, so now I have my two curves. Make sense? Yes? So let's go ahead and do this in Grasshopper. So I need to rotate. So I'll just type in rotate. There's a bunch of them. We have rotate axis. Let's look at these. Sometimes it's good just to pull them up. Oh, sorry. Just have a rotate. What else we have? What is this? Rotate an object in a plane. There's a lot of rotates here. So this is not a bad thing to do. Just start pulling them all up. Got that one. Rotate 3D. There's rotate. Rotate plane. I don't think we need that. All right, so we can do, what do these do? So rotate, this rotate, base geometry, rotation angle, and rotation plane. Okay. This one was base geometry, rotation center, initial direction, final direction. Okay, that sounds too complicated. Let's get rid of that. Rotate 3D. Geometry, number, center of rotation, axis of rotation. So, not too bad. I mean, it has center of rotation. This might be good when you want to rotate something off center, right? But we want to rotate about this sort of center point. So maybe this is overkill. So we'll get rid of that one. Does that make sense, guys, a little bit? What was this one? Rotate a vector around an axis. Well, we don't want to rotate a vector. So we want to rotate an object, or a curve. So let's get rid of that. And this was rotate plane, as far as I remember. So we can get rid of that. So that would be a way to sort of, you know. Oh, did we miss one? This is rotate axis. Rotate an angle. Rotation axis. Well, we have an axis, but not really. No, let's get rid of that. So this is like multiple choice. You ever take a multiple choice? Yeah. There's maybe 5 good answers there, but there's only one really good answer, right?
Well, it depends who's writing the multiple choice.
A lot of multiple choices are that way. They're all correct, but there's one more, the more correct out of the 5. And they're looking for that. And they'll even tell you in the instructions, you know, pick the most correct answer, right? You guys take tests like that, don't you?
I mean, sometimes.
The whole architectural exam is that. It's like all the answers can be correct, pretty much.
History class, I think. No, right? Madison's history class. He likes throwing her a bunch of random questions because there's always that option that is impossible. It's not even a thing.
So, right. So it's looking for our base geometry. It's looking for rotation, angles, and radians. Oh, I love who uses radians on a daily basis? Do you guys like when you park, you say, "Hey, turn your wheel to."
Yeah.
No, so we need to convert. So if we type in rad, there's a converter from degrees to radians. So we can enter degrees. And then we need a rotation plane, okay? Well, by default, it picks world XY, which is what we want. We're working in the world, so we're good there. So we need to add our arc. Oh, look at it, I already rotated it. So there must be something in here already. So it's doing it 0.5 pi, which is what? 90. Huh? So we need a number slider. It's going to go 0 to 360. And we're going to put in 45. Type that into D, put that into A. Alright, so there it is. It's rotating 45. Pretty good, huh? So far, so good? Feeling good about yourselves? Okay, what's next? Now we need to get the middle curve, right? And the middle curve is going to be basically, it needs to be different. It's a unique arc that's going to potentially be larger. And it needs to be half of 45, 22.5 rotation. Okay? So this is where I start thinking, okay. Should I do this? I mean, this is where you can do many things. How would I do it in Rhino? Not in Grasshopper. How would you guys do it? Give me some help. What would someone, if I want to draw a curve right there now, at 22.5, an arc. What's that? Bigger, because it's a pumpkin. It has a little. We already did that. But now we want to get the center one. How do we get the bigger center one? Right, it wasn't recording. So let's go ahead and do this. So I like to rotate the C-plane about the Z first. All right, so I type in C-plane, rotate. So I'm typing R enter, Z enter, all right? Clicking here and I'm rotating that. You see how the X and Y are rotating? And I say 22.5. But now I got to flip it up. Let's do it in AutoCAD. Right, if I'm here, right? Oh, let's try. If I want to I go UCS Z 22.5, right? So just rotate it, and I go UCS X 90. So this would be, if I draw a line now from 0, 0, and go to my ortho, this is at 22.5 degrees. So if I go to UCS World, Plan, this is at 22.5. It's rounding up. It's 22.5. For some reason my dimension is set. Okay? Does that make sense? So we're rotating UCS, but then we got to flip it up because we're drawing an elevation. So now I got to type in C-plane, rotate X, click there, rotate it up. So now my X and Y is going up. And then I can draw an arc. Okay. And then I pick the 3 arcs. And I type in loft. Do it again. You always got to make sure you pick in the right spot. If you pick one low, one high, it's crossing. Okay? And then I hit OK. So there's my pumpkin, part of my pumpkin, right? This is what I was sketching. You always have to make sure when you're picking the lines, like a loft command, make sure you're not going from low to high to low. It does that. Because it's going from low to, it's flipping the curve. But so if we do loft and go from low to low to low, then it's good. So you don't want to go from low to high to low. Okay, does that make sense? Yes? It's a 3D pumpkin.
Unless you go all the way around like that, and you have a second set that's smaller than that, so you can get the curve on the inside.
You don't think it's a pumpkin?
That's a perfect smooth surface. Some things don't have smooth surfaces.
This is a 3D pumpkin. You play video games.
Yeah.
So if we use an array polar. Oh, C-plane, right? We gotta get our C-plane in the right spot. So I'm doing an array polar. Since you guys are questioning my pumpkin.
Okay, there we go.
That's a nice pumpkin. Come on, man. Okay. So now we need our middle line, right? So what can we do? Well, we made this arc, right? This is where we can start reusing things. And then we did rotate it. So I can take this, Control C and Control V, and just copy it. Alright? And then what I want to do is... Oh, I forgot the vertices. Sorry, you need to take the vertices, right? But this I want to be 22.5, right? But what you guys have to get good at, and you'll learn this, is once we start doing these, if you can have one parameter that controls the whole show by just moving one bar, then we're using some mathematics, right? So you got to pull out your kindergarten mathematics, which is division. Maybe that's kindergarten. Where do you learn division? Huh? So if we plug in 45 into A divided by 2, right? If we right click on B, we can say set data item. And we can plug in 2. We don't need a number slider. If we're committing one number that's static, we can right click on that and say set data item to be 2. Then I can take that and plug it into here. I don't need that anymore. And now if I grow or shrink my angle, it's always going to find the middle, right? So that's a nice little parameter to have, right? Is that making sense? Go back at 45. I need this to be a little bit bigger though. And you can see I'm seeing more than one. So the one thing you guys have to get over is we do see more than one geometry. We always see the original geometry, then we see what we've done to it. So it's like a copy. The component copies it. So we see it as a preview. So we can turn this stuff off. So we can right click and say preview off. Okay. So now we're seeing this. Right? So now we have this arc, we have this arc, and then we have our start arc, right? And this might be the hierarchy. When we do the loft, we want to go from here to there to there. So we'll do a loft command. Holding down the shift key, I plug in the 3 curves. So the great thing about this now, if I start making any corrections, I can adjust the scale. I can adjust sort of the angle of these things. And it's changing in real time. Or if I wanted to do that manually, I would have, for each little scroll, I'd have to remodel. So this is the power of Grasshopper for right now, for what you guys are using it for, is that we can set up some basic geometries, have these components be driven by parameters, interlock those parameters, and then by changing a few things, we change the end result. Okay? So they're parametric, yeah. So this idea of parametric modeling isn't like it's not just Revit, right? A lot of software, AutoCAD's parametric. We even have, right? The new AutoCAD has all this stuff in it. Not like this, but has parameters. So now we can do a rotation, and we want to do a polar array actually. Alright, so I do a polar array. I want to polar array my loft. Oh, look at that. It's asking for the plane, that's fine. The number, we have too many. I know we just had 8, but we can start thinking about this. How many do we want to produces the angle. So if I want 8 sides, right? So this is where we can come here and say, this isn't so important, the sides are important. So let's get a number slider. I'm going to right click this, edit it. And I'm going to say the max I want is 24 sided. I'm going to make it an integer, so it's always a whole number. And I'll put it to 8. I'm going to go back to my kindergarten math and find division. And I'm going to go, A is going to be set to 360, because that's 360 degrees. Divided by my number slider, which will be 8. This will give me 45. And then I'm going to plug that into A there and D there. So I'm going to swap out my number slider, not for degrees, but for count. Okay? And then I'm going to plug in my 8 here all the way to my number in the array to match that up. So now if I change the sides, the right angle is being produced. Here, you can even have 2-sided. Can you have 1-sided? No. They should make a 3-sided pumpkin, like genetically altered. That'd be pretty cool.
Probably can.
That'd be a nice piece of vegetable. No? No, Joe? All right, so does this make sense, the power? Did I just demystify it for you guys? A little bit? Do you feel more comfortable? That's all it is, right? We're sort of mapping out all our moves and then starting to stitch them together. Okay, I'm going to stop that.